This is the DJI Pocket 3 and this is the Sony ZV-1 Mark I. What's similar about both of them is that they have a 1-inch sensor, meaning they can capture high quality videos with good dynamic range. So the question is, which one should you go for? In this video, I'm going to break down their video quality, audio quality, along with all their unique features to be able to help you make a better and wiser decision. So here I have both of the cameras side by side, the Sony ZV-1 and the DJI Pocket 3. Let's do a walkabout to be able to compare them in their native focal range. Now, one clear disadvantage that the DJI Pocket 3 will have is that DJI Pocket 3 has actually Active Track 6.0, which is really accurate. So as you can see, the Pocket 3 has this little green box that actually follows me around, which makes this a huge advantage compared with the Sony ZV-1. So let's touch a bit about their focal range. The Sony ZV-1 itself has a focal range of about 24 mm, and it can go as low as up to the aperture of f1.8, while the DJI Pocket 3 has a fixed focal range about 20 mm. Of course, it does have this wide-angle lens that is able to extend it up to about 16 mm. As for its aperture, it's fixed at about f2. So how do you guys find the dynamic range so far? I'm sure you also noticed that the DJI Pocket 3 is much wider compared with and much at a higher angle compared with the Sony ZV-1. Alright, I need to mention one thing, that the DJI Pocket 3 does have an option to be able to increase its focal range. What you have now is at 20 mm, but with this wide angle lens, you can actually increase it to 16 mm. But unfortunately, you won't be able to attach any ND filters as you can only hold one filter at a time. Now let's walk around and also to be able to test its audio quality. So all the while now, you've been hearing the audio that's coming out from my Rode Wireless Go 2. Let's now switch to their native microphone. What you're hearing now is the audio coming out from the Sony ZV-1. And now, what you're hearing is the audio coming out from the DJI Pocket 3. Okay, so far if you're watching on my channel, I'm not very impressed with the quality coming out from the Sony ZV-1's internal microphone. The noise reduction kind of sounds a bit unnatural. Whereas on the DJI Pocket 3, I believe they have improved technology, and especially for the fact it's actually 3 little microphones at each side of the camera itself. Now, as you saw from my previous video, there are actually 3 options for the DJI Pocket 3 in terms of microphone's direction. You have the front and back, and then you have the omnidirectional. Okay, this is the audio with the microphone that is frontal. This is the microphone with the setting back and front, so this is probably the front. And this is the back. I know you can't see me, but it's the microphone clear. And this is with the audio that is omnidirectional, which is the one that we've always been using. But I think that the omnidirectional doesn't sound that good compared with the front and back. But what's impressive about the the Sony ZV-1 is that it has a wind muff attached, which you can attach it at the top. So you can see once we attach it at the top, it will block directly on the microphone itself, which filters out the sound. Where the 3 different microphones are at is right here. At the back, you will be able to see this hole. And then the other side, which is a little hard to see. But you can see how brilliant the autofocus of the Pocket 3 is. You see, it just keeps locking on me, just like an irritating younger brother that you have. But you also can see what's good about the Sony ZV-1 is that there's a clear recording light that's always on. Whereas on the DJI Pocket 3, there's a blinking light. So which do you guys prefer? Do you prefer the light that is always on, or do you prefer the light that is always blinking? I personally feel that the light that is always blinking is a little bit irritating because it might distract you. Most of the time, I'll think that it's actually low on battery. Okay, we definitely need to appreciate the landscape over here. And since we are at it, let's take a sample side-by-side photo to be able to see how they fare in terms of their image quality. So as you guys can see, in terms of the frame rate for my DJI Pocket 3, it's a little bit off because I cannot attach an ND filter on top of it. I can only either attach a wide angle lens or an ND, as the magnet is only strong enough to hold one of those. Whereas the Sony ZV-1, there's actually an inbuilt ND filter, which makes this camera excellent in terms of maintaining a frame rate. Now let me off it for you. Okay, so here we have it on. Okay, now we have it off. Wow! So you can see this is off and this is on. I think the ND is really quite strong. I would say it's probably an ND16 in terms of an external filter. Whereas for my DJI Pocket 3, previously I purchased an ND8. Okay, so now that you have an idea of how the DJI Pocket 3 looks, let's use back its ND filter to be able to maintain a more narrow focal range. Okay, let's remove the wide angle lens and include back its ND filter. So now we are back to its native focal range, which is 20 mm. Okay, in terms of usage, both of them are slightly different. The Sony ZV-1 functions more like a mini camera. That's why it's considered a compact camera. Whereas the DJI Pocket 3, it feels more like you're holding a mug or a racket, as it's meant for more of a vlogging device. So what do I mean by this? Look at the way I'm holding my Sony ZV-1. There's a grip, and my screen can also fold out to be able to get this kind of low angle views, which are actually important if I'm compositing my photos. Whereas for my DJI Pocket 3, it holds and feels more like holding a racket. So now that we have a taste test of how both of these function in terms of usability as well as a peek of their quality, let's head back home studio to break down some of the things such as pricing and specifications about both of these cameras. Now that we have some time with both of these cameras, let's get into their respective details. Number 1. Form factor. The Sony ZV-1 is built more like a mini camera. You have the articulating screen and the grip over here, which is very typical of a larger camera. Whereas the DJI Pocket 3 is a little unconventional. You do not find the way it's built similar with other cameras in the market. The top part of this camera is obviously a mini gimbal, which are found on bigger cameras before this technology was out. The way you hold this is a lot different. You're holding it as if you're holding a sports racket or like a cup. Both of its form factor also results in different weight. The Sony ZV-1 comes in at 294 grams, while the DJI Pocket 3 comes in at 179 grams. A 100 gram difference. So even though both of these are video focused cameras, they obviously have different form factors and weight. Number 2, stabilization. Starting with the Sony ZV-1 is known for its digital stabilization. It has this software called Sony Catalyst Browse, which allows you to use the gyro information found on your video clips to stabilize the footage. With its native microphone. Now if you see my previous video, there's actually 3 settings for the DJI Pocket 3. You have the front microphone only, you have the front and the back. But needless to say, digital stabilization will have to crop in your video a little. The DJI Pocket 3, on the other hand, uses mechanical stabilization as it's literally a gimbal, so there will not be any crop. But the downsides of this is that once you damage its motors, this camera is pretty much useless. It actually happened in my DJI Pocket 2, which was quite a heartbreak. It cost me nearly $200 to get the motors back fixed up. Number 3, dynamic range. From the footage we gathered, they do have strong and weak points. On paper, the DJI Pocket 3 does have 10-bit D-Log recording, while the Sony ZV-1 has only an 8-bit recording. We are talking a difference of 1 billion colors compared with 16 million when we put them side by side. On this side-by-side footage, the Pocket 3 does exhibit better details in the shadowy areas and places of highlights. But in terms of skin tones, somehow the Sony ZV-1 performs better due to Sony's color science. At the moment, I've not managed to replicate the warmth in the skin tones on DJI's Pocket 3's footages. But I guess this is the alluring factor of Sony's color science. They've been in an image capturing game much longer than DJI. So far, we only captured their daylight footages. How about in the night? How are their low light performances? Okay, now that we are very close to dark, the sky is literally almost turning dark, we are actually doing a low light test between these both cameras. Now, both of these cameras are actually set at the ISO of 200, so to a certain extent, I believe it's quite fair. How do you guys find the quality coming out of this? Which one does have a better low light performance? Okay, as for my DJI Pocket 3, I'm recording in D-Log, so there might be a slight advantage in terms of getting better quality. But we are now looking in terms of the details, which one has sharper details in the night. Okay, in terms of autofocusing, I think both of them are doing pretty well. The Sony ZV-1 does have this auto eye focus, which sticks on really well. Whereas the DJI Pocket 3 still has the active tracking following me, you can see. Not losing me anytime soon. So I do believe that the DJI Pocket 3 is going to have a slight edge even in the evening. What do you guys think? Initially, I thought the DJI Pocket 3 would be a lot better in the low light due to its 10-bit recording, but it's clear that the ZV-1 trumps the Pocket 3 as you can see a lot more details in the shadowy areas, even when both of them are shot at the same 800 ISO. Here's a side-by-side video of both of them during the night. In terms of their ISO capabilities, the ZV-1 can go as high as up to 12,800 ISO, while the Pocket 3 maxes out at 3,200. Let's move on to photo quality. Obviously, the Sony ZV-1 will have a slight edge in this area. It does have a 24 megapixel compared with 9 megapixel on the DJI Pocket 3. Here are photos taken side by side, and as you can see, the Sony image is less pixelated and has sharper details. When we zoom in, we also notice less decoloring at the edges of the photos compared with what was shot on the Pocket 3. Sony's longevity in the image capturing department is clearly reflected in their advanced image sensor capabilities. How about their audio? Both of these have improved built-in microphones. They are said to have noise cancelling technology, but the Sony ZV-1 does perform slightly poorer in this area. The audio that you hear seems more mechanical compared with DJI Pocket 3, which seems more well-rounded. The audio in the DJI Pocket 3 sounds more natural and richer in tonality. What you're hearing now is the audio coming out from the Sony ZV-1. What you're hearing is the audio coming out from the DJI Pocket 3. Whereas the ZV-1, there are slight peaks and downhills in terms of their audio wavelength because it's trying to sift out all of the background noises. Okay, so far if you're watching on my channel, I'm not very impressed with the quality coming out from the Sony ZV-1's internal microphone. The noise reduction kind of sounds a bit unnatural. Whereas on the DJI Pocket 3, I believe they have improved technology, and especially for the fact it's actually 3 little microphones at each side of the camera itself. If you don't already know, the DJI Pocket 3 does have a further edge in this area as it has a wireless microphone if you are planning on getting it with the creator combo. The wireless microphone design is also really nice with this translucent look and this removable wind muff, which makes this excellent if you are in a really noisy environment. And needless to say, it does have onboard recording as well as 32-bit float, meaning it is almost impossible to get distortion in your audio levels. It also has a very powerful magnet at the back. That allows you to attach it to any tops that you might be wearing. One of the more important, if not most important question is, how good are their battery life? Starting with the Sony ZV-1, each of the Sony ZV-1 is powered by one of these MPBX1 batteries. Each of these batteries contains a charge about 1240 mAh, which lasts you about 30 minutes of shooting in 4K. But if you are shooting in 1080p, it probably can last you to about an hour of use. The DJI Pocket 3 on the other hand has an inbuilt battery about 1300 mAh, which lasts you about 2 hours of use. Now, if you are planning to get its creator combo, it comes with this battery handle, which further extends it to about 3.5 hours of use, which is really brilliant as you don't have to keep changing out the batteries compared with what's happening with the Sony ZV-1. I literally had to bring 5 batteries at a time to be able to go out for a full day of shoot. Recently, a company just sent me wires, which just nice brings us to the topic of charging. Now, both of these cameras are charged differently, and it's really convenient having one of these charging cables. If you can see up close, these charging cables are actually magnetic. Not only that, you can increase or decrease the coil sizes in each of these cables. Now, they have different colors, but I went for the black and this grey one. Other wires which they have are this 3-in-1 charging cable. So all you have to do is just to remove the top, which in this case has already a USB-C. So I can just remove the head and replace it with either a micro USB or Apple charging tip to be able to plug in at the side. And you also can see that this particular wire can bend, meaning you will never be afraid that the wire will be damaged. The DJI Pocket 3 on the other hand charges via USB-C, which is quite easy to find. So let's use this black one and you can just plug it at the back over here. Each of these wires are made out of this braided nylon material, which feels really high quality and long lasting. Even though I only had it for a week or two, the material and versatility is something that makes me want to bring it over my other cables. So this is how their packaging looks like. If you're interested, check out a link down in the description below. There's even a further 10% discount for my viewers out there. Going back to their charging, I'm really surprised that the ZV-1 is still stuck using the micro USB. It should have already moved on to using the USB-C, which are found on most devices. But with that said, if you're planning to charge the DJI Pocket 3, it charges much faster. It's able to reach 80% in about 16 minutes of charge, while charging one of these MPBX1 batteries takes at least about an hour to get it fully charged. Now let's go a little bit deeper and dwell on their unique features. Features which are only special to their particular model. Starting with the Sony ZV-1, it has an inbuilt ND filter, and it's very simple to access it. All you have to do is to go to the menu and go down to functions, and you'll be able to see that there's an inbuilt ND filter, and all you have to do is just press it on or off. This is excellent if you're shooting video and want to maintain the 180-degree rule. Meaning, if my frame rate of my video is 24 FPS, I'll need to shoot it at 1/50th for its shutter speed. So in terms of intensity, I'll say that this ND is probably an ND16 on a regular filter. Compared to the DJI Pocket 3, which is the next feature, is that it has a variable focal length. It has a focal length about 24 to 70 mm, which is excellent for zooming in and out. The range is so much better compared to the DJI Pocket 3. In terms of aperture, it can go lower than the DJI Pocket 3 at f1.8. But of course, this is not a fixed f1.8. If you were to zoom in, you won't be able to maintain that aperture. But compared to the DJI Pocket 3, it's always stuck at f2. If this focal range is not enough for you, they have the new Sony ZV-1 Mark II, which starts from 18mm and go all the way up to 15mm. 50mm. But of course, it will cost much more at $900. Moving on to our DJI Pocket 3, which is obviously its screen. Now once you on it, it will be by default in its landscape mode. But all you have to do is just to flip the screen. You're able to shoot in portrait mode. All the settings will be in default in the vertical orientation. I personally not seen this function in other cameras before, so this is really unique to the DJI Pocket OSMO's line. Taking this to the next level is obviously its creator combo. Its creator combo will come with this very neat pouch, which you're able to put all the accessories in. It also comes with this carrying case, which you're able to put filters into the body of the carrying case. Going to the talk about the wide angle lens. The wide angle lens does increase its focal range from 20mm to 16mm, which is able to capture most of the environment you are in without having the image being too distorted. Now of course, if you saw at the bottom there's an ND filter. This ND filter, I actually got it separately. It only costs about $10 because the native ones cost about $80 for 3 types of ND filters. With the carrying case, it's able to fit your wireless microphone, the battery grip, as well as this mini tripod at the bottom. If you're planning to get the DJI Pocket 3, it's really brainless. I feel that you really should just go with the creator combo. It gives you so much more. Now, let's talk about price. Starting with the Sony ZV-1. The Sony ZV-1 comes in at $748. But if you want a wider focal range and slight upgrades in a few other areas, you can up your budget to $900 for the Sony ZV-1 Mark II. On the other hand, if you love what the DJI Pocket 3 is offering, with the creator combo, it only comes in at $700. If you find that you do not need a wide angle lens or the wireless microphone, you can get the Pocket 3 itself at $539. Don't worry, it still comes with the protective cover either ways. So let's conclude. Which of these should you go for? Now, if you are planning to shoot stationary subjects, such as videos like this, where you're not moving, the Sony ZV-1 will be excellent. Even if you're moving, there's this eye autofocus. The videos that you get out of this also produce much natural and nicer skin tones. You also have a larger screen to be able to see and frame yourself. And if ever there's a need for you to take photos, the photos will shock you with its 24 megapixels, which allows you to crop in without losing much details. On the other hand, if you are shooting subjects that are moving, then the DJI Pocket 3 would be an obvious choice. As it's a small gimbal, it has mechanical stabilization, which is able to help you to smooth out all those rough movements. It also has the active track functions, which basically follows you as you move around, making filming alone really easy and fun. With the addition of the creator combo, the value you get from the DJI Pocket 3 is also multiplied. You have the wide angle lens to effectively increase your native focal range about 20mm to 16mm. The battery handle also gives you an additional hour or two for filming longer videos. In the audio department, the highly advanced wireless microphone also allows onboard recording and 32-bit float. to make sure that your audio is in tip-top condition. If you are getting a Sony ZV-1, there's one more recommendation, is that I'll suggest for you to get a dummy batteries so that you will not always need to change out the batteries if you are shooting indoors. In the end, both of these are really top of their game. They both have this product showcase function, which is excellent for all those who are doing product reviews. Which one are you going for? The Sony ZV-1 or the DJI Pocket 3? If you are leaning slightly towards the Sony ZV-1, I've already done extensive videos on it. In fact, there's even a wide angle lens I would recommend for you to increase its focal range. Check out the playlist up over here. If not, I'll see you guys in the next video.